Careblazer. In last week's video, we talked about if dementia neuropsychological testing is absolutely required. And there were so many amazing questions that were submitted in the comment section under that video. I wanted to do a follow-up video based on some of the comments and questions that were made because they were excellent. Whether you realize it or not, my team and I go through every single comment that's left under my videos. And we often pull from your questions to come up with topics for future videos. So if you're not working with me personally, you're not a part of my dementia care club, but you have a question, always leave it in a comment underneath one of my videos. You just might see it in a future video. Today, what I want to talk about is because in last week's video, we said neuropsychological testing, while it can be helpful in many cases, it's not absolutely necessary all the time. And in some cases, it might not be possible. If you missed that video, you can click here to make sure and go and watch it. But if it's not absolutely necessary, why in the world would somebody subject themselves to hours of what can be perceived as brutal, unpleasant testing to get a formal dementia diagnosis? That is an excellent question, and I want to address that today. Why in the world would somebody get neuropsychological testing if it's not absolutely necessary in the majority of cases? Well, the short answer is sometimes it is necessary. And this is when somebody has an insurance plan or even a long-term care insurance policy that comes with some benefits for dementia or cognitive impairment. And the insurance company or the long-term care insurance company might require a formal diagnosis. And in those cases, in order to get certain benefits, they're going to need that formal diagnosis. And so that is absolutely a time when you would want to pursue neuropsychological testing for your loved one. In other cases, you might be in a position where you know it's pretty clear this person has dementia. The primary care provider might even say, like, yes, it's very clear this person has dementia. And you might be in the process of wanting to plan for the future and consider other care facilities, other care options. And sometimes those care facilities, especially depending on the type, like if they're a memory care facility, they might require formal testing to document that they have dementia and what type of dementia. And so in those cases, you would also want to pursue neuropsychological testing. So a lot of times when people are really pursuing it, even when it's clear that this person has dementia, it's to invoke some sort of benefit in a policy or get them approved for some sort of care that they would otherwise not be approved for without the formal diagnosis. Another thing to be mindful of that I did not mention last week, if you are thinking of pursuing neuropsychological testing for your loved one to get a formal dementia diagnosis, you may want to consider completing your long-term care insurance policy paperwork, getting your financial affairs in order, making sure medical power of attorney paperwork, financial power of attorney paperwork is completed. Absolutely. Talk to an elder law attorney if you have any questions or concerns, or you want to make sure everything like T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. When somebody has a dementia diagnosis, it does not mean that they cannot make changes to their estate or to their will or to their power of attorney. It doesn't necessarily mean that. However, it can raise some questions and potentially cause some problems down the line, especially if there are other family members who are not all agreeing on what is in the estate plan or what is in the will, or family members disagreeing on decisions. They could raise the concern that the person had dementia. Did they really know the decisions they were making? Did they really know the changes they were making to their estate plan? And it can open up just a whole bag of worms. So I think most elder law attorneys would agree, and obviously contact one in your state because it varies by state. But prior to a formal dementia diagnosis, if the person does not have their long-term planning paperwork in place, that might be something you would want to think about doing before getting that formal diagnosis. Also, let's say you're in a position, especially if you are caring for somebody who you are concerned has dementia diagnosis, but they're younger, because that's possible. And you're thinking, well, I want want to see if I could qualify for a long-term care insurance policy, you would definitely want to apply for that prior to being tested for dementia. Because if the person's tested for dementia and then gets a dementia diagnosis, the chances are slim to none that they will ever get approved for that long-term care insurance policy. So there are some things to think about prior to getting a dementia diagnosis and some things to consider that will actually make you want to pursue that neuropsych testing to get certain benefits, even though it's an unpleasant experience. Just a few more specifics about the testing process that I did not address in last week's video that I saw some questions come through on in the last video. And so I hope that helps. One of the other questions I got on last week's video was about, well, why in the world would you repeat test for dementia if they were already tested and they already got a diagnosis of dementia? Why would you repeat the testing year after year? Now, like I mentioned in the previous video, at some point, the yearly testing will stop. At some point, there will be no use to continue the testing, but at least one other testing cycle a year later, and maybe a few others, it can be helpful to establish the rate of decline, like how quickly are they progressing? And it can also help refine the diagnosis. Earlier today, I did a live Q&A inside of my Dementia Care Club. This is where I just talk to my members about whatever questions they have. And one of my members said, is dementia unspecified a diagnosis? Technically, yes. But what that diagnosis is it tells us they're not sure what specific type of dementia they have. They're not sure what's causing the dementia. And sometimes having repeat testing can help refine and clarify the actual diagnosis. So in those cases, it can also be helpful. It's especially helpful if somebody gets neuropsych testing and they're in the mild cognitive impairment range, meaning they don't have a dementia diagnosis, but they have mild cognitive impairment. Those people are at an especially high risk to progress to dementia, but not all of them do. So having further follow-up testing can help the family understand, is this a progressive disease that's going to get worse? Is it going to develop into dementia? And then we need to really start planning for the future and what's to come and the care needs. Or is it holding steady and it might literally just be mild cognitive impairment? And this is where we really want to do whatever we can to hold that cognitive impairment steady, or even take a lot of healthcare action, a lot of healthy lifestyle changes to help maybe even improve it. There's a lot of potential improvements that can happen when somebody is just in that mild cognitive impairment phase. So if you get the neuropsych testing and the results are mild cognitive impairment, guarantee there's going to be a follow-up testing scheduled in a year to follow up and see, is it progressing? Is it staying the same? Is it getting better? All three of those options are possible in the MCI phase. Careblazer, that's what I have for you today, a follow-up on why in the world would anybody get neuropsych testing if it's not absolutely necessary. A lot of times it's benefits and insurance policies and treatment facilities and care facilities that are really going to require that formal diagnosis so that we can get some of the care and benefits we are looking for. I hope that helps you. As a reminder, when you leave a question below one of my videos, just might see it in a future video. For those of you who want to join me inside of the Dementia Care Club, work with me more personally, attend my ongoing Q&A sessions, as well as join us for the upcoming Joy in the Holidays series that we're doing in the month of November. You can find links to everything below in the description. I'm sending love to all of you. Bye. Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.